The story of the Cuban Five dates back to the successful Cuban Revolution of 1959. The U.S. CIA began covert actions recruiting and training exiles in Florida to attack Cuba, hopefully to end the revolution. Under the protection of the U.S. government, Cubans were kidnapped, planes and boats hijacked and firebombed, embassies attacked, and assassinations planned and carried out. Hundreds of attempts were made against Fidel Castro's life. From Florida, a plan was hatched to invade Cuba, known as Playa Girón, or the Bay of Pigs. The plan was to assassinate the leaders of the revolution and set up a puppet government. It failed, but many were killed. Exactly 34 years ago, a Cuban plane was bombed in midair, killing 73 people. These attacks were meant to demoralize and panic the people. Since then, nearly 66,000 terrorist actions against Cuba have been carried out. These well-financed mercenary groups from Florida have sabotaged industrial facilities, schools, set fire to a daycare center, attacked tourist hotels, killing an Italian tourist, and murdered literacy teachers and farmers. Cuban UN Representative Felix Garcia Rodriguez was murdered by a terrorist named Eduardo Arceno. The terrorists have used biological warfare, including dengue fever and several plagues that have killed people and livestock. 3,478 Cubans have died. Orlando Bosch and Luis Posada Carriles, who planned the Barbados plane bombing, walk free. Something had to be done to stop these attacks planned and paid for in the U.S. and launched with U.S. support against Cuba and its people. Who are these 5 Cubans? Geraldo Hernandez, Luis Medina, Antonio Guerrero, René González, and Rubén Campo, who came to the United States and penetrated the Cuban exile community in Miami to gather information about their activities, which had caused great damage and more than 3,000 lives in Cuba. One was the crash of a Cuban airliner, killing 74 people. They gathered 64 folders of information and gave it to the Cuban government, who gave it in turn to the U.S. State Department. They had hoped that our government would stop these attacks on Cuba and the injuries to the Cuban people. Instead, they arrested all the 5 Cubans. They held trials in Miami in a hostile, very anti-Cuban atmosphere, made worse by U.S. paid journalists who wrote articles against the Cuban Five during the trial. Remember, they did not in any way harm or commit espionage against the U.S. But when a plane flown by the Miami terrorists was shot down over Cuba, Geraldo Hernandez was accused of murder and given 2 life sentences. The 5 men are languishing in jail, moved from place to place, and have not seen their wives in 12 years. International Nobel Prize winners and thousands of people worldwide have condemned their trial and have pleaded for them to be released and to at least see their wives immediately. President Obama can free them with just his signature, but there is a press blackout and few have even heard of the 5 in this country. Please help us. San Antonio Committee to free the Cuban Five. Call 210-734-5618 or 210-888-3688. Thank you.